Good morning, welcome to the Rossendale ASB Google Hangouts. That's anti-social behaviour for those who aren't aware of it. First time we've ever done this, so you will have to bear with us. We're here to answer any questions that you have around anti-social behaviour. It's just another option for you to make contact with us in terms of engagement. There are various other ways you can get hold of us, which I will explain a little bit later on. We've had a lot of questions via our Facebook page, both the Lancashire Constabulary website and via Rossendale Facebook page. So we'll do our best to get through as many as we can, and we've also got some live questions coming through. So again, we'll crack on with those as and when we can. I'll just introduce myself. I'm the neighbourhood inspector at Rossendale, Steve Rides. I work from Waterford Police Station with a team of neighbourhood response officers and PCSOs. To my left, I have.
I'm Alison Wilkins. I work for Rossendale Council and I pick up some of the antisocial behaviour issues.
And to my right.
I'm PCSO Callum Nuttall and I predominantly work in the Bake-Up area of Rossendale.
Okay, we'll start with some of the questions that we've had on Facebook, which have been put on over the last couple of days or so. We're going to look at it via topics really, because there's a number of repeated topics. The first one is around speeding. So we've had a question from Christina, who is talking around Bury Road at Hassenden being a racetrack. And we've also had a question from Patricia, who's mentioned Newhall Hay Road in Rossendale. In addition to that, we've had Jenny, who's talking around Dean Lane Water being a problem where there's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit with no signs. And Sharon, who's talked around Jubilee Road and Mercer Crescent at Hassenden, again with a 20-mile-an-hour restriction on there. Craig, he's talked about in general sort of speeding in residential areas and people when they get into estates start putting their foot down. And Ian, speeding on Holcombe Road at Helmshire around the bend on Station Road. So just in general on speeding, speeding is a key priority for us at Lancashire Constabulary. We do a lot of work around it. A lot of education is done in schools and also in the community. We have a couple of schemes that we do to broach the subject around speeding, and these are one's called Residents Road Watch, which is basically a community volunteer run scheme whereby an officer will, alongside a community volunteer, will do a speed gun test on various roads which are identified from the community. Subsequently, anybody caught speeding will receive a letter which will explain to them that they've been caught speeding on a particular road and that they've been registered onto a spreadsheet. If that person subsequently does the speeding again and caught again, then an educational visit will take place at the home address of the person, just to explain around the issues, the dangers, and the impact that they're having in that particular area. We are really keen on education rather than enforcement. However, we will get to enforcement if that's what is deemed necessary. Another aspect of things we do is around schools road watch. This is where we obviously have people speeding past schools. The concept of this is, again, we will have a speed camera set up with a volunteer and with officers. Again, anybody caught speeding will be actually pulled at the time. So it's a little bit different to the Residents Road Watch where people are sent a letter. They will be pulled at the time, taken into the school grounds where they will be met by a number of school children and basically will have to explain to the children why they were speeding. This does have a really good impact, and we've had some really good feedback on this. And I think the worst thing you can do is have to explain to a child that your speeding could have actually killed them. And I think it does have a really positive impact on them. So they're just a couple of things we do. Obviously, there are speed cameras around Rossendale. We also have the speed van, which is the enforceable side of things. That speed van is generally deployed to areas where we've had serious accidents or deaths, and hopefully that will restrict those in the future. One thing I would just say in terms of if you live on an estate and there are people speeding through it, for example, the 20-mile-an-hour parts, then please get the details of the car or take a picture of the vehicle, send that into your local PCSO or CBM, or report it via the Lancashire website or on Rossendale on page, and we will follow that up and visit the people and again educate them around speeding, certainly in a residential area, is very dangerous, and hopefully that should curb them. There is no current enforcement on 20 mile an hour estates. That is in consultation at the moment with the council, LCC and ourselves. Again, education is really important, and it is something that we really do believe in, but there is a time for enforcement, but that is ongoing at the moment, just for those people who did mention the 20 mile an hour zone and whether it is enforceable or not. So that's just covers speeding in general. I'm just going to now look at school parking, which is another area that's been raised. So I'll just go through some of the questions that have been raised on school parking. Eleanor's talked around parking on zigzag lines around Helmshaw Primary School. We've had Nikki talking around the double yellow lines outside Croatia Booth School with 2 very near misses and polite reminders being ignored. Jackie has talked about Northern Primary School at Weir. Again, problem being the traffic can't see, you can't see the traffic coming up the road, and it's very dangerous for other drivers and school children. We've got Jennifer, who's talked around problems around Croatia Booth, and that's every evening, and where Turton Hollow, where children go to and from school. And we've got Lorraine, who's also talked around the issues around Croatia Booth Primary, again for the school children. And that the last one is around Burnley Road at Bacup from Joanne, who again talks about parents parking on bends, double white lines, etc. So I'm just going to ask Callum, who's obviously the local PCSO, just to explain a little bit around our policies on school parking and what we do to try and to help.
Hello, and so the inspector has said this is quite a prevalent issue in Rossendale. I think firstly, when it comes to tackling this issue, we need to understand why it is this issue takes place in the first circumstance, and that is that when these schools were first built, they were built without the vision of there being so many cars on the road as there are today. In tackling the issue, we like to work closely with the school and with the children, as the inspectors mentioned, with the school road watch. To all schools in Rossendale, the yellow A boards have been made available to them for free, reminding parents of the dangers of parking on zigzags and parking dangerously outside schools. What we would suggest is that if you as a parent witness someone parking dangerously, have the confidence to speak to them yourself. We wouldn't promote confrontation, but maybe a polite reminder might just be enough of a deterrent. Equally, speak with the school and the headmaster. They're there to support you, and they will always try to help you. If you feel that it's an issue that isn't going away and is still prevalent at your school, as the inspector has said, there are many ways of reporting it to us, and we will promote that you do so, and then we can do follow-up visits and educational letters to parents in order to tackle the issue.
Okay. Right, another one of the subjects that have been raised is around parking. A few of these are as follows. Mary is talked around parking at Newchurch Road, Higher Clough, where cars are having to park on the pavement because there's nowhere else to park properly. There's also Dennis, who has talked around cars parking on the pavement on Rochdale Road at Edenfield, blocking the views of cars leaving the car park. We have Susan, who's raised the issue around pedestrians having to walk in the road because motorists now park on the pavement, and should motorists be allowed to double park so the buses struggle to get through. Let's check. And we've also had Deborah, who is asked if it's illegal to park on the footpath, and Craig has asked about double parking outside the post office convenience store, which has been flagged up as an issue in Croatia Booth. And we've also got a couple of others from Nathan, who's talked around parking around St Saviour's School, which hopefully we've addressed, and also parking at junctions around Newchurch Road and Rockcliffe Drive at Bacup. And lastly, I think that pretty much covers those that we've had so far. We'll just ask Alison from the council just to have a little chat around parking and what we can do about it.
Okay, yes, I'm Alison, I work for Rossendale Council. In terms of parking, we work closely with Lancashire County Council. Lancashire County Council highways have the powers to kind of enforce parking restrictions. So if anybody parking obviously on double yellow lines with any other parking restrictions, they can basically issue tickets, and they will do. They undertake patrols throughout the county. If people have concerns about particular sort of hotspot areas of people parking, causing obstructions, parking on double yellow lines, and so on, then please report those through to Lancashire County Council, and they can send somebody out to have a look. In terms of pavement parking, I mean, quite often vehicles will park on the pavement because it avoids blocking the road. There should always be sufficient space on the pavement to get through a sort of a double buggy, a wheelchair, so plenty of space for people for pedestrians and so on to get past. If not, then it is causing a restriction, and the police can sort of ticket for that. If you've got vehicles parked on the pavement and it's double yellow lines on the adjacent part of the road, or any sort of parking restriction on the adjacent part of the road, then again that's an offence, and Lancashire County Council can issue tickets for the parking offence there. So basically, yes, if it's causing an obstruction, or if it's parked on the pavement adjacent to double yellow lines or any other parking restriction, then we can issue a ticket. In terms of sort of double parking and general parking restriction issues, if it is causing an obstruction, and generally I think the view is if a fire engine or an ambulance would be unable to get past, it's classed as an obstruction, and the police again would be able to issue a ticket for that. Best advice really is, you know, if you've got a particular problem, particular hotspot area, phone it through to Lancashire County Council Highways, and they'll get somebody out there to have a look. Now, I know one or two people have also asked questions in terms of highways around things like whether you can have an extra pedestrian crossing put in place and speed bumps. Unfortunately, there's nobody from Lancashire County Council could come to the session this morning, but they have promised that they will respond to all the questions relating to that. So we'll get those posted on Facebook. So as I say, things like sort of speed bumps and extra pedestrian crossings, we'll get some responses to that on Facebook. In terms of parking near to a junction, is that something that the police would enforce, or would that be down to Lancashire County Council in terms of parking close to a junction? There's restrictions, aren't there, as to not parking within so many metres or so many feet of the...
Yeah, and again, it's about assessing that particular situation as to whether it would fall under our legislation or the council's, and that's something we'll look at the time. But any concerns around that, please just call 101 and someone would get deployed to have a look at it in due course. Okay, the next sort of subject we're looking at is around youth nuisance. There's been a few questions posed around this. A few areas that have been highlighted are youths hanging around Manchester Road Methodist Church. This is from Charlie, whereby a dance school is run, and there's lots of children and parents being intimidated by the youths as they enter the premises. We've also had Morrison's at Bacup has been raised as an issue, with youths hanging around outside in an antisocial manner, swearing, jumping up and down, throwing litter about, etc. So I'll just ask Callum just to speak about what sort of things we do around youth nuisance, and just to explain what's available to us.
Yeah, youth nuisance is a massive issue in Rossendale, and it's something that we actively target on a daily basis. What I would say is that when you are having problems whilst it's ongoing, we do heavily rely on yourselves, members of the public and staff working at stores, to phone us up and make us aware of these incidents as they're ongoing. We are able to catch these people in the act. It could ultimately have a massive effect on how effectively we deal with them. If we catch them in the act, we're far more likely and more readily available to take immediate action. Mr. Ryder's worked very hard on this issue as well, and he's introduced an anti-social behaviour patrol car that in an evening time specifically targets ASB. Whilst responding to incidents of antisocial behaviour in Rossendale, they also default to the hotspot areas in order to identify offenders and also deter incidents of ASB. Lately, we have been given new powers and tools to tackle antisocial behaviour, and here in Lancashire it's something that we are keen on using and utilising these new powers. Problem addresses, where there might be loud parties, for example, we can look at a closure order, which for 48 hours we can close the property, with the view to applying for a further 3-month ban on the property being used. It's something we have done in Rossendale and we'll look to do on further properties should the need arise. But like I said, we are heavily reliant on people making us aware, and we love to identify the offenders because we want Rossendale to be as safe and enjoyable for people to live in as it can be.
We also have an early action team in Rossendale, so any youth who are identified as being sort of problem persistent people, our early action team officers, of which there are 2 CBMs, Denise Barlow and Claire Scott, and 1 PCSO, Kerry Standring, they will pick up these people on a referral and will visit them at home with the parents and basically look to identify the root cause of why they are behaving the way they are, put in some support and hopefully get them on the right track to get them back to behaving and reducing the antisocial behaviour in various areas. So that's it is the way that Lancashire Police are heading in terms of that early action, early intervention, to really try and hopefully intervene in people early on within their lives to get them on track, support them as best we can, and hopefully guide them to a successful life. Okay, is there anything to add?
Just to add on that point, we also work with sort of local community voluntary organisations and also the Young People Service for Lancashire County Council, who will do what they call detached work. So basically they have sort of youth officers who will go out and then engage with the young people and try and get them into perhaps more sort of positive activities. So they'll try and engage with them, and getting them doing, playing football and so on, and doing activities that, keep them occupied and keep them, off the streets and where they're causing a nuisance. It's just another way of trying to tackle the problem.
Okay, we also have a lot of youth provisions in the area as well,
Yes.
with youth clubs, youth centres, as Alison's mentioned, some outreach workers. So there are things out there for the children to do. Again, if you are a parent and you feel that there's nothing for your child to do, please get in touch with the local team, either the action team or Callum or the rest of our neighbourhood team, or even the council, and they will direct you towards some of the services available, just to hopefully keep people a little bit more busy. Okay, next subject that's been mentioned is around quad bikes and scrambler bikes. I'll just pick out some of those. Julie has mentioned a scrambler bike being on the Chatterton hayfield at the back of Eden Avenue most weekends. Sue has talked around one motorised children's toys on Stackstead's Wreck, which is noisy and spoiling the sports pitch for people to use. Jeanette, who has asked about mini motors and small scramblers around the Blackthorn area, not wearing helmets. John has talked around quad bikes on Burnley Road East, asking if they are, even if they are legal, if they drive dangerously, what can we do about that? And Nathan's talked about scrambler bikes flying up and down near the park on Gordon Street at Bacup. So it's quite a few people highlighted this as an issue, which again we understand. And again, Callum will just talk a little bit around this subject for you.
Yeah, so I think that living in Rossendale, obviously it's a fairly rural area, and there are a large number of people who have quad bikes and scrambler bikes, and we have to determine between whether those quad bikes are being used for farming purposes and those people that are using them as a tool to joyride around the streets and effectively cause instances of antisocial behaviour. There are a number of tools that we have at our disposal in dealing with these issues. Firstly, if these people are caught on the roads by officers and we are able to stop them, depending on the circumstances, we can seize the vehicle. I know that in Rossendale recently 3 vehicles have been seized, and that's something we'll actively look to do, take these vehicles off the street, protecting the rider and also the people in the community through which they are riding. We can also issue a warning, which is basically called Section 59 warning, and that's if the vehicle is being used predominantly for reasons of antisocial behaviour. That warning goes on both the driver and the vehicle itself. So, for example, if the driver is caught within a 12-month period on another vehicle and they have already had a Section 59 warning, that vehicle can immediately be seized from them. That being said, if another person is caught driving the vehicle they were on at the time they were issued with the warning, we can seize that vehicle. So that's something that we use to begin with as a deterrent. They're allowed 1 Section 59 warning, and if they receive a second within 12 months, we can look at seizing vehicles. A lot of people now, we're becoming more aware that they have dash cams in their vehicles. A lot of people have access to mobile phones which have recording equipment built in and photo taking equipment. And what we would suggest is that you gather intelligence for us and help us to tackle this issue. There are a number of ways to report this kind of incident to the police. You can do it online. Send us the footage or send us the photo. Let us know where this person's keeping this vehicle on the home address, and we can go around and tackle the issue there at the home address when they're probably least expecting it, and it probably hits home even harder than it would do if we were to catch them on the street. So I do implore that you help us out with that.
Okay, thank you, Callum. Another issue that we have and do often get a lot of complaints around is dog fouling. I'll just pick out one of those that have been mentioned via the Facebook page. And that is around, and it's basically a generalised sort of issue really, and that's around dog, but this particular one's about dog walkers around Laneside Road, not picking up the mess, drives Susie mad, no doggy bins, and she's saying the nearest doggy bin is Hill Rise near the quarry. So that's been sort of replicated by a number of people, and I think it is quite a common sort of problem within Rossendale and everywhere, to be honest. So I'll just hand you over to Richard just to introduce himself and just to talk around what we do around.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I'm Richard. I work in the operations department of Rossendale Council. Dog fouling at the moment is quite a hot topic. We would encourage all residents to report problematic areas to our operations department. We've currently had new signs designed and they're actually being erected every week at the moment in hotspot areas. It would help us if residents are able to identify specific addresses or people. Your contact details will obviously remain anonymous, but that helps us to go on target and knock on doors of specific addresses rather than just erecting signs in these hotspot areas. All litter bins can also be used for bagged up dog fouling. We're currently at full capacity with the litter and dog bins, but we will be looking to move some of the lesser used bins into these hotspot areas. The cost is quite minimal to add the actual bins in. It's the ongoing cost of adding them to the round year on, year out. We are also currently recruiting a full-time enforcement officer, and part of their role is going to be focusing on these hotspot areas and doing patrols in these areas. So again, that's why we encourage residents to ring in, let us know which areas are bad and specifically which addresses. If you can give them to us, then that would be great. Again, we believe that most people do pick up the dog fouling, but it's the small percentage that don't pick it up, that regularly don't pick it up, that then creates the problem. And these are the people that we would really like to target, as well as our parks areas. So yeah, please ring in into our operations department or email us with these specific addresses and areas. We can focus on the dog fouling.
Okay, just a couple of areas that Richard might be able to assist with, a couple of things that have also come up within the forum. One of these being, Richard, my neighbour has lots of rubbish in his backyard, bits of old furniture and carpets and bags of rubbish. Is there anything the council can do? It looks a mess and I'm worried about rats.
Yeah, absolutely. We deal with accumulations of waste in people's backyards or front gardens. Again, let them be known to us. We would first of all go and speak to the resident where possible, or we would leave them with a 7-day warning letter. If the nuisance isn't removed, if the waste isn't removed, we would serve what we call a Section 80 abatement notice on the person, or a Section 4, that's from the Environmental Protection Act and the Prevention of Damage by Pests Act. That gives them another week to remove the waste. If they don't, we can then clear the waste in default, and we would look to prosecute on the back of that. Again, we don't want people having waste being stored in their yards and their gardens, because it does attract vermin into that area. So again, absolutely, please get in touch with us for any accumulations of waste.
Okay, just another one for yourself, I think, Richard. There's a car that's been left on our road. It's been there for a couple of months and it's not been moved. I think it might have been abandoned.
Yeah, again, this is quite hot at the moment, abandoned cars. We get people ringing in for abandoned cars because sometimes they're parked in their parking spot, or and they feel like, well, it's been abandoned, it's been there, 2 weeks. If it has been there months, we will absolutely, we will check out every abandoned car, but it has to meet certain criteria in order to be classed as abandoned. Therefore, things like windows smashed, causing antisocial behaviour, burnt out car, just because it's been parked on your street for a couple of weeks, for instance, doesn't mean that it is abandoned. If a car isn't taxed, then the DVLA have the powers to be able to remove a car that's not taxed on a public highway. So you can get in touch with the DVLA and you can check whether any car is taxed online on the government website. You can see whether it's taxed and what date it's taxed until, and also whether it's MOT'd. But again, if it's causing a nuisance, especially on social behaviour, it's been parked there for months, do get in touch. We will go and assess it and take it from there. If we deem it as abandoned, we'll put a notice on it. That gives it a week. If it's not removed, we will then have the car removed.
Okay, thanks for that, Richard.
There's one just to mention that somebody's raised, kind of relates to the abandoned vehicles. This is Angela, who says a man living in a transit van in Haslingden. The van's untaxed. It's been there for at least 6 months. Again, we can, in terms of the vehicle itself, we can have a look at that, and it depends obviously where it's parked up and whether it's on the public highway and so on. Obviously, it's not taxed, so if it is on the public highway, we can do something about that. In terms of somebody living in it, I've had a chat with our housing options team, who aren't aware of this particular case, but what they will do, they will make contact with the chap who is living in the van and discuss with him his options, obviously, for better housing, so we can pick that one up.
Okay, thank you, Alison. The next sort of subject that we've got is around noise. So I want to invite Dave up to the front. Cheers, Dave. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Dave. Just introduce yourself, Dave, and I'll just go through the questions that have been raised.
Yeah, my name's Dave Pearce. I'm the Principal Environmental Health Officer here at Rossendale Borough Council.
Okay, one of the many issues raised around noise is from Gary. Is one which says that he's sick of people with stereos, music's blasting out on full volume in the house, and then opening the windows and doors so everybody on the street basically gets to hear the noise. So just want to talk us through what sort of things people can do around that, please, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Yeah, this is one of the most common complaints that we receive here at the council. We've got a statutory noise nuisance, and most often the complaints are about neighbours being noisy in the property, kids shouting, running up and down the stairs, domestic arguments, or loud music played during the day or late into the evening. Now, as far as the people noise is concerned and the behaviour of normal daily living, that's not really something which falls under a statutory nuisance. That will be looking more towards an antisocial behaviour. And Callum mentioned earlier about where the occupant of a property is acting in an antisocial manner, we can actually look to take action to close the property down for a period of 3 days if we can prove that antisocial behaviour is going on there, and excess noise from children and arguments and antisocial behaviour in property can be dealt with in that manner. That leaves us with noise nuisance. Now, in general, the elements in proving the statutory noise nuisance are about time, duration, and what actually we're complaining about. It's generally aimed at amplified sound, stereos, television, and it's more of a problem potentially at night during the quiet hours. You would generally see quiet hours from 11 o'clock onwards till sort of 7 in the morning. Anything which is falling in that period has potential to be a statutory noise nuisance. In this particular situation that Gary was complaining about, on a one-off, that wouldn't constitute a statutory nuisance. For somebody who is habitually doing that day in, day out, it's the frequency. Again, the definition of a statutory nuisance, it's something which affects the material enjoyment of your home. Where that may happen once a week or at weekends or whatever, it doesn't really fall into statutory noise nuisance, especially during the day, because you're about doing your normal day-to-day business. You might not like the music the guy's playing, but it would have to be quite excessive for during the day. However, that doesn't mean to say that things can't be done in terms of controlling that. Again, we would fall back on the anti-social behaviour legislation. Now, as far as noise nuisance is concerned at night, part of the investigation process would be referring it to our out-of-hours noise service, who operate across East Lancashire with the various East Lancashire authorities, and operate from 8 o'clock Friday night till 3 o'clock Saturday morning, and then again from 8 o'clock Saturday night to 3 o'clock Sunday morning. And they're available for anybody where there's an open case who previously reported it to the council. They can phone and make a complaint, and the officer can come out and witness it. They will also take new complaints. However, they won't come out and visit. This is just the basis of the service. We don't have sufficient resources to be opening new cases for officers who are out there off the weekend. So they will make a note and then we'll report those cases to ourselves on the Monday, and we will make contact with those new complainants. Now, the out-of-hours noise service have a phone number, and that is 07813 523 481. So they can be contacted if you've already complained to the council about loud music, be that from a domestic house or whether that's from a commercial business. You can phone that number, and then over the weekend, and an officer will come and witness that noise, and then that will help us build a case to determine as to whether statutory nuisance exists, and then to serve a notice which will then require them to take specific action to prevent the nuisance occurring.
Okay, just I think one element that's been raised as well, Dave, is around dogs within the home. Somebody's raised a question around living next door to a couple who have two dogs. Whenever they go out, all they do is bark. They work shifts, and so they bark at night as well. And basically, what can we do with that? Is that something that we?
Yes, again, that falls into potentially into statutory noise nuisance. And initially, we would look to send out diary sheets to get some sort of idea of the pattern of when things are happening. And we try informal approaches at first, and we've tried using dog behaviourists. I mean, dogs bark when people leave the house because it's separation anxiety. The dog itself is pining for its owner. So we approach the owner, and we try to get them to engage with us to try and modify the dog's behaviour. And we can engage with, as I say, a local dog behaviourist who can assist the owners to teach their dog not to have anxiety when they leave, which will then reduce the instances of barking. Now, when we talk about barking in the home, we're not talking about when the postman comes along and shoves the mail through the letterbox. We're talking about when somebody goes out and the dog just constantly barks and barks and barks, and that sort of behaviour is not bad. It's not good for the dog because it's stressed, and we would look to work with the owners to change that behaviour. Ultimately, the sanctions for barking dogs are the same as with music, loud music. We can actually take formal action to require the owner to do something about it. Of course, with dogs, it's a bit more emotive in terms of how do you stop a dog from barking? Well, I'll get rid of my dog. So we try and work informally with those to try and find a resolution.
Okay, just another one around neighbour sort of issues here, Dave, is neighbours burning garden rubbish when they're washing out. They asked him to put it out and he refused. Is there anything you can do around that?
Okay, yeah, I mean, what we would say is I would say probably 97% of the borough is in a smoke control area. So therefore we shouldn't be creating any smoke generally. However, we do realise that from time to time that people do have the occasional garden bonfire. In some circumstances, it's purely legitimate. Commercial burning, where a builder is clearing a site, it's quite legitimate for him to burn vegetation on site. Again, we appreciate that some people would burn garden rubbish. The first thing we would say is the council collect garden rubbish free of charge. So to utilise the collections that we make, it not only can it go in the recycling bin. If you run out of space there, it can go in your domestic waste. So people do have sufficient capacity for disposing of garden waste. So there is no real need to burn anything in your back garden. And we will try to educate people by making them aware of this. And certainly the sort of smoke-free legislation does not really cover things like barbecues or chimneys, that sort of thing. They're recreational things. It's generally a one-off, and okay, it may happen that they'll use it 2 or 3 times a week, but those sort of things we don't really consider as being bonfires or smoke generation. We just ask that people be a bit site them a bit away from the back doors and trying to prevent smoke when they're first lit going into neighbours' properties.
Okay, thanks. Just one further question we've received through from Victoria is about kids vandalising the old Waterford Primary School. Groups of teenagers using it as a hangout. Many windows have been smashed, doors are open. It doesn't appear there's been any attempt to secure the building. Obviously, what happens if it goes up in flames? And it must be somebody's responsibility. Again, conscious that the summer holidays are coming up. Of empty properties within the borough, as we do probably anywhere. What we will do around this, and again we work very closely with the council, we'll link in with the council specifically on this particular issue for yourself, Victoria, and we'll identify who actually owns the building, and then we will have a look at that assessment of it and get it secured. Obviously aware of the health and safety implications for the kids going in there, but also the anti-social behaviour that's giving out. I'll also ensure it's put on our hotspot plan to ensure we give it a bit of attention around the ASB car, and then we can get some names and again educate the children around the dangers of using it. So it is quite a common thing. We have previously secured quite a number of empty properties where it's become a bit of a hangout for kids, without them again understanding the sort of dangers around these buildings, because they're not always flooring secure, etc. And there is that opportunity for them to be set on fire. So we will pick that up, Victoria.
Yeah, I mean the council do have powers to if you like, make secure empty residential and commercial buildings that are obviously, where particularly in terms of the kind of safety issues, if young people are getting in and obviously there's potential there to hurt themselves. So the council does have some powers to make buildings secure. We also have powers as well kind of linked into this in terms of empty buildings that are kind of unsightly, that look a mess. The kind of term is detrimental to the amenity. So if you've got, it might be an empty house or an empty building that looks, looks really unsightly, starting to get, smashed windows, rotting window frames, that sort of thing, vegetation kind of all over the place. Again, the council does have powers to require the owner to do whatever work is necessary to bring it back to a decent standard. Or in some cases to do the work ourselves and put a charge on the property. So we do try and kind of address issues, because we are aware that empty buildings, whether they're residential or commercial, can cause quite a few problems for people.
Okay. Just really want to summarise now. Just first of all to say thank you very much for those people who posted questions. For those that we've not specifically answered, we will go in through them all and we will put a reply on there in the next 24 hours or so. It is the first that these things that we've done, just trying to open up a bit more of an engagement opportunity for yourselves to let us know what the problems are. We, as the police, we work really closely with the council, and all that is to really the ultimate aim is to improve your quality of life. So if we can do that in any way, then that's what we're here for. Other sort of ways of contacting the police wise that we do have a monthly Q&A on the Rossendale police page, so please take part in that when that comes up. Generally is on a Sunday evening is that. We also have obviously the Lancashire website, which has your details for your area, PCSOs, CBMs, so any issues locally that you want to make contact with them or make them aware, all their details are on there, so please utilise that. You can report incidents online now through the Lancashire Constabulary website. We also have a Facebook page specific to Rossendale, but also one for Lancashire Constabulary, and we also do have a Twitter page, so please utilise those where you can. One aspect I'd just like to make you aware of is something called In the Know, and this basically will give you alerts around crime and any specific things going on within your ward area. It's really tight to your area. You don't get information about everything, but it is specific to your area. It's really easy to sign up. If you just go onto the Lancashire Constabulary website, follow the In the Know link, and just put your details in there. It's really useful. It gives us the opportunity to get messages to yourselves where we had specifically, for example, a crime spree, a lot of vehicles done overnight, just to make you aware that some of those may be left insecure, etc. So please, if you can sign up to that, it is really useful. And also the Rossendale Borough Council have quite a detailed website, again accessibility to some of their services,
Yes,
a lot of information on there.
Yes, I mean, yes, obviously the council website, lots of information on there. The council also has Facebook page and Twitter and so on, and you can obviously contact the council switchboard, which is 01706 217777, if you want to get hold of anybody within the council.
Okay, so I hope you found it really useful. If we get some positive feedback around this, which hopefully we will look to do some more. We will look at perhaps doing one in the evening, where again people may be more in a position to post live. You will be able to check this back later on. Thank you for watching.